set out and said, we want to set a goal, strong culture where retention is important, where kids who come into the program, they stay in the program because they genuinely have a positive experience and they can see outcomes for themselves that maybe don't exist in their neighborhood in other capacities.
There is something special inside you.
Welcome to GNG Podcast with your host, speaker, best-selling author, Chaz Jackson.
Yo, what's going on, kings and queens? It's your boy Chaz Jackson coming back to you once again, representing GNG Giftinagift. You know our motto on GNG Podcast is we are all gifted differently to make a difference. And man, I have a difference maker on this episode with each of you today. My guy, King David, chasing out the guys on the heart. He's in the building, ready to shine his light and share more about Bridgelacrosse Club and also his inspirations, his leadership, and how he is serving the community. Are you ready to get it, David?
Let's go. Let's do this.
Yes, sir. So I know we've been talking off camera a little bit, sharing, things that you're passionate about, how you are caring, valuing, and serving the DFW community. I want you to go into your story. Share with us about how you got to where you are now in 2022, serving our next generation to become stronger version of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, man, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat and again, share the opportunity or, have this opportunity to share. My story, it's pretty simple. It's not overly complicated. I've been at the helm as the executive director of Bridgelacrosse since about 2011. We're a small sports-based youth development nonprofit. Our mission is to use the sport of lacrosse, which is a very non-traditional, very niche sport, and we're looking to utilize that sport and leverage that sport to provide opportunities to kids who don't otherwise have opportunities. And that can be relationships, that can be enrichment, that can be academic opportunities. We're here to use a really cool sport, really fun sport, and would love to put a stick in your hands at some point. But we're here to use that sport to give these kids traditionally low income, traditionally under-resourced communities, just something cool, something new, and hopefully that will give them a new avenue to pursue down the road. So that's Bridge, and that's kind of quick summary myself and how I got here. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I love sports, right? So I grew up playing any sports I could. Now, that being said, I'm a smaller guy. I, was never big enough to play, football. I went to a massive, 6A high school. So I was, I'm 5'9", 170 now, as a, freshman in high school, take off about 50 pounds and 5 inches, right? So, I love sports, but I could not find a sport that, I could really excel at, that could really, really pursue at a high level. So football was out of the question. They're a freshman now, I am obviously. And so football was out of the question in big football state. Basketball was never really my thing. Still pretty short. I'm not going up rebounds. I'm not boxing guys out. So I ended up finding hockey. So hockey was, a very niche sport in Oklahoma, but pretty good at it. Really loved it, and found my way playing roller hockey, street hockey, with neighbor kids. And you go to, the rec league, you go to the Y League, and then you make your way into ice hockey. And I found myself playing varsity hockey. Loved every second of it. Won a state championship my senior year. A lot of fun, great guy. Went on to Oklahoma for college. Didn't pursue hockey at the collegiate ranks, but, missed playing sports, right? So looked at playing hockey, ice hockey at OU. It was a really competitive club program, but they were running 6 days a week, 2-a-days. They were playing high level hockey, And I was like, I kind of want to be a freshman, kind of want to be a student, kind of want to balance everything. My sophomore year, started seeing these flyers for lacrosse, bringing back the Oklahoma lacrosse team. I guess it had been kind of defunct for a handful of years. Bringing back the OU lacrosse team, looking for guys who want to try it out. I've seen lacrosse because hockey and lacrosse have kind of a tangential relationship, especially in the North. So showed up kind of one of the first practices, held a stick, made it up as I went along, but loved it. Just fell in love with the sport. Great group of guys who I'm still very, very close with. And, just got kind of sucked into a whole new sport, wanted to be competitive, wanted to play hard, wanted to go, work, practice, do all those things, have that camaraderie. And yeah, fell in love with the sport. This is my sophomore year at University of Oklahoma. Played, I was a fifth year, so I played 4 years, loved every second of it. We weren't terribly good. We, new program, a lot of guys like myself who had never played lacrosse before. We're kind of making it up as we went along, but just absolutely loved it. Graduated, Dallas, still missing, you still have that sports, itch. Played a little bit of men's league. When you Google lacrosse in Dallas, you obviously get a handful of programs, you get a handful of teams and things like that. But one of the programs I found was bridgelacrosse. And they had just started, they just kind of reincorporated. They were still pretty new upstart nonprofit. They were kind of just still figuring out programming and where to go and how to do things, and so I kind of figured it's like, okay, looks like they were looking for volunteer coaches. I don't have a super deep playing background. I'm not a blue blood from Syracuse or Duke or, Long Island or wherever. So it's like, maybe I can make a better coach than a player actually. Cause, again, I'm not, a guy who grew up with a lacrosse stick in his hand since he was, 2 years old. So I didn't have a strong playing background. So like I said, maybe I'll try my hand at coaching. At the time I wasn't very, community oriented, community centric. I didn't really grow up with a lot of that when I was a kid. We did mandatory service hours when we could, things like that. I was like, let me try this. It's like a different route for me. Coaching might be something new. And, this is like an organization that is kind of in my wheelhouse. Emailed someone in the organization a week later, maybe even less, ended up in a beautiful home in Preston Hollow. It was the founder's home. They were doing like a big volunteer donor party, if you will, kind of a thank you party. I'm in way over my head. It's a demographic that I'm not familiar with, right? Like this is, very affluent, very well off. I'm a 22-year-old, 23-year-old kid out of college. Just like, I just want to hang out with kids and coach. I think I might be good at it. I have no idea. Actually, I don't have the background for it. And they pulled me right in. They didn't have a deep volunteer base. They were looking for coaches. And, again, kind of like the first time I stepped on the field, got sucked in and fell in love with the organization. So yeah, that's kind of my story. And essentially I work my way up the food chain. Background is actually life science. And so I kind of,
that's not I've seen environmental industry. Is that kind of what you graduated with from Oklahoma? So was that kind of blended in to kind of go into the coaching? Did it kind of play?
Not even a little bit. So I graduated in 2008, which was not a great year to graduate college. Economy was kind of falling apart. Lehman Brothers had just gone under. I was working for a pharmaceutical company doing like training and kind of some management. I had kind of a management role. Got let go from that company. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to bounce around jobs here. Obviously, economy's not great. Not going to, going to have to hang tight here. Bridge was a really great outlet for me. Something to do. It gave me some purpose. Aside from just looking up, jobs and sending out resumes. And, I enjoyed that time and that experience. So, so my background in science is I made the career pivot in 2011. So what ended up happening is started as a volunteer coach and essentially, like I said, got sucked in and kind of worked my way up the food chain. There was like a young professional group. Obviously, I was coaching a team. And then I think maybe a year or two later, because I was really starting to put a lot of energy and time into the organization, the founder asked me to be on the board of directors. And so I was kind of like the coach rep, if you will, kind of the young room with pretty high level people, CFOs, senior VPs of organizations, people who were pretty established in their industry, kind of learned the ropes and saw that level of the organization. And what ended up happening, man, was, we knew we had a director, but we knew she had a timeline because her husband they were probably going to likely move in about a year and a half. He was in residency. I believe at Southwestern. He was in med school or finish up. So we knew he was on his way out. They were probably going to leave. And essentially the job kind of came open. And, I really thought about it. I love this organization. I hope I really have a background in this. Like there's no way I can run this. But someone, on the board asked me like, hey, would you like to be considered for the job? I kind of threw my name in there. And, either I interviewed really well or they were desperate, one or the other, maybe both. And I got a call saying, hey, we'd love to bring you on. Thinking about maybe going and teaching, looking at nonprofit gigs, doing something else. I didn't love it. At this point, I was working in a project management role for an environmental company, and I didn't love it. And so this was an outlet for me. I made the career move in late 2011, and that's kind of about it. That's how I got here. Obviously, bounced around in terms of the role, in terms of the mission, but, I've been at the helm for 11 years and it's been a heck of a ride.
Man, thank you so much for diving into your short story. I can tell you're really passionate about lacrosse and helping, the next generation thrive in the sport and in life, extracting those life lessons from the sport itself. And I'm kind of like you. I remember I graduated with a degree in entrepreneurship and sales and marketing. I worked in it for a little bit, but I knew I was being called to go into public speaking and to shine my light in that realm, and also in physical therapy. So I kind of made that adjustment too. So I truly believe that your gift will make room for you, and you go through certain seasons where, you grow in that aspect, but, you're being called in other endeavors. So thank you for answering that call, man. And I know, you was kind of put in those situations where you had to, make some critical thoughts and decisions. And again, man, I know, speaking off camera, I know that you feel like you're in your lane, in your dream right now. So
I think so.
Yeah. So I know you've done some amazing things, got coaching awards, leadership excellence. Again, just doing some amazing things. I know you mentioned one of your biggest obstacles was COVID and kind of overcoming that. You shared a little bit of that. But whenever you hear the name Bridge Lacrosse, thinking from a leadership standpoint for a young male who could be listening to you right now, also teachers, parents, coaches listening to GNG podcast to, extract those lessons to be able to pour into that young man. When you hear Bridge Lacrosse, thinking from a leadership standpoint, what does that mean to you when empowering a young mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that, we've been very intentional about. What is it that we ultimately want the experience for kids to be when they're in, and what is the value going to be for them over the course of their lifetime, right? And so the tool we ultimately use is obviously the sport of lacrosse, right? Sports for a lot of people can be this really great experience, this really great environment to learn soft skills, teamwork, non-cognitive skills. For us, it's certainly all those things, right? It's also about becoming a better lacrosse player, being an athlete, things like that. We want those things too. We don't put as much emphasis, obviously, on the sports aspect or the technical aspects of the sport, but obviously we want kids to play the sport and have fun doing so, and maybe over time they get better. But one of our big things is culture, and that's a pretty cliche thing to say in the sports realm.
No, I certainly know really that. Important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. But we want to be intentional with culture, and that's one thing that's been very important to us over the past 6 years. Is what is it about the culture of the organization that retains kids, that brings new kids in, that brings parents in, new stakeholders, donors, partners, whoever. And it's this culture around family. And that was something that when I first got to Bridge, it wasn't quite established just because it was new and you had different people come in and out. And you just didn't have that historical longevity where things could build upon themselves. When there were other organizations at the time that I really respected that had been around maybe, 10 or 20 years longer than we had. And I remember asking them, like, what is the secret sauce? What is it you're doing? And a lot of it came down to like, listen, it takes time. There's no, silver bullet, all those kinds of cliche type, listen, just wait it out, do the little things, build. And we did that. We set out and said, we want to set a goal, strong culture where retention is important, where kids who come into the program, they stay in the program because they genuinely have a positive experience and they can see outcomes for themselves that maybe don't exist in their neighborhood in other capacities. And that a lot of that culture that you have in your corner, you have coaches, you have other teammates, and there's something about the relationships that go beyond just being like a really good teammate, coach, someone you could maybe call, for a little advice here and there. We want to make sure that we want those relationships to be a level up from that, right? And so whether it's alumni who are now back in the organization as coaches or supporters, those are guys that I coach. Those are men and women that I coach when they were, they're now back in the organization, giving back into that, feeding that same culture, building those same relationships that I was building 10, 12 years ago. And I think that's a really important part of what we've done is maintaining this super rich network of relationships. And, again, I think a lot of organizations have those, but we were really intentional. We're offering something that does not exist in and I think for us, that's been what's made us so successful over the past 5 or 6 years. We always say that if winning was the secret sauce to our success, we would have folded years ago. We are not a program that wins lots of games. Granted, we do have 2 state championships from 2021 in our varsity girls and boys. But traditionally, awesome, we don't win a lot of games, man. Yeah, that was just, but 2021 was very special. Helped us win a couple championships. But traditionally, this is not a program that wins a lot of games. And so what can you offer these kids? What can you offer these families? That's something different than being super competitive all the time. And I think it's that culture of this strong network that's always in your corner, that comes from the same neighborhood as you, that, you know, believes in the same things you have, has the same values. Those are things that are really important to us. And I think we've done very well. Obviously, it's something that we need to continue to maintain and pursue, but we have a really strong foundation right now. And that's something I'm very proud of.
Dude, that is so awesome. Thank you for diving deep into that whole mindset. And I heard some key words: culture, really important, building those authentic relationships. I know I constantly say to my young kids that I work with, you know, relationships can either nourish you or they can drown you, using a water analogy there. And it sounds like Bridge Lacrosse, you guys are nourishing the young people, also nourishing yourselves, because I don't know about you, but I learned just as much from them as they learn from me when it
100%
from a growth mindset. And that's so key, building culture and this and having that identity with each other. So I really love what you shared there, and just allowing them to understand, you know, you can be more than just your body. And when I say body, me being a collegiate athlete myself, I played football. And, you know, at one point in my life, man, when football was gone, I thought, man, if I wasn't using my body, there was nothing else left. And I heard you talked about, you know, maintaining that culture even when you're losing, because I get the feel, and maybe you can give me some feedback on this, is that you're asking them to think beyond lacrosse. Yes, lacrosse is good in the season, and this is a season of your life, but we're not always going to play lacrosse. You can do more. Like, there's not a period by I am a lacrosse player, period. There's I am a lacrosse player, comma, and I can do even greater things. So I definitely get that from you. If you agree with what I'm saying, is that's kind of
absolutely. I mean,
guys are.
That's the one thing we always say about our student athletes is, you know, if they never touch a lacrosse stick after they graduate high school, I don't care. What I want them to have, though, is opportunities that came from the sport, that came from our organization, that came from the network and their relationships that maybe they didn't have otherwise, and they're pursuing those with all of their passion and all of their energy and enthusiasm. That's what we ultimately want. And our kids see that, and our families see that pretty early on, that this is not an organization to pump out future D1 athletes, although that's really cool when it happens, that maybe there's something about this organization that's going to provide a unique road or a unique relationship that otherwise does not exist in the neighborhood that I'm in. And I think we obviously got to maintain, we got to keep our foot on the gas, but have this really strong foundation. And like I mentioned earlier, we have these alumni coming back to the organization, proof of that. What we were doing 10 years ago, you know, is paying off, and it worked to a large degree. So that's the one thing too that's very beneficial over the last couple of years, is this rolling back of alumni into the organization who are, you know, again, examples and the evidence of the work that was put in years ago.
Awesome, man. Dropping some amazing jewels, some golden nuggets, some lessons that can be extracted from this conversation. I'd love to hear from whoever's listening to us right now, what you're taking from this conversation. There's been some amazing value given. And I know there's somebody listening right now, David. They're like, I want to learn more about Bridge Lacrosse, how I can support, how I can be praying for, how I can be serving. Also, I know we're right in the middle of 2022, what you have going for the rest of this year, moving into 2023 as that approaches us. So we would love for you to share your contact information, and again, how we can support you and serve you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, to go to your first part of your question, know who we are. You know, lacrosse, like I said, is an incredibly niche sport. There are probably more kindergartners playing soccer in Fort Worth than there are lacrosse players in the state of Texas. So lacrosse, just as a whole, is not a very well-known sport. It's a sport that's so fun to watch, though. It's so fun to be a part of. There's actually a pro team in Fort Worth now. There's a pro league that kind of does a tour-based model. They're coming to Frisco and later in July. So just, you know, get sucked into the sport, because it is a lot of fun. It's a great spectator sport. And then with Bridge, you know, just, you know, the easiest point of entry is social media. See what we're doing, see some of our kids, see the photographs, see the testimonials. That's a big part for us. We want to grow the visibility of the sport. We certainly want to grow the visibility of our organization. And those are two really easy ways right there. Learn more about the sport, find us on social media and see all the great things. And again, the anecdotes and the photos. And then in terms of, 2022, we survived COVID, to a large degree. Obviously, it's still kind of lingering in the background, but we have returned to full programming. We're about to, launch into our summer programming actually next week. So we're 100%, all pre-COVID numbers. We've got some growth plans. I've got a full-time hire who's going to come on board here pretty soon, hopefully this summer.
Nice.
Just started a new group of summer interns. So, we're trying to get back to, again, those pre-COVID numbers, which were really, really close. And then, figure out what the next chapter is. COVID was a time for us to really dial. What are the things that were really important to us? What are the things that we have to always do for kids and for the community that we serve? And taking that kind of that new strategic plan, if you will, and then moving it to like, how do we grow? What are the most important things for us? Things that are not as important to us that we can kind of maybe not drop, but maybe we don't have put in the same resources. So COVID was the silver lining of COVID was allowed us to really focus on what it is we're doing and what it is that we're good at. And it was the relationships and it was the uniqueness of the sport and the programming that we operate. So we're taking that mentality, that survival mode mentality from COVID, and we're using that as kind of our platform to grow and expand. We want certainly more kids in the program. We want to go deeper in relationships with the kids that we have. So on the table, there's a huge, huge ceiling for us that we're kind of chasing. And I think we have a stronger foundation with COVID than we did before. And so, yeah, we're excited about what's next. 2022 so far has been a great year. We've had some challenges along the way, certainly, but that's a lot of years. And I think we're stronger now than we've been in a while.
Boom. Thank you, David, man. That's really powerful. I know you're speaking life into your organization, into your own life, into the community. And I'm excited to see how things start to ramp back up since we're, I know some say on the back end of COVID, some say it's still in the midst of us, but, I like to think we're opening up a little bit more and opportunities are starting to rise again, as you're seeing in your organization. So there's really respect what you're doing, supporting what you're doing. Giftinagift podcast is on fire for Bridge Lacrosse and lifting you up to succeed and continue to inspire lives moving forward. And again, thank you so much for being on this platform. It's been such a treat having you. And again, whoever's listening to us right now, drop in the comments if it's on social media or on one of the podcast platforms what daily application that you're going to take from our conversation today with David and apply to your life to become a stronger version of yourselves. And I'm going to lead us out, David. I told you guys, again, awesome conversation. I want you to stay up with GNG. More episodes coming soon. I want you to do two things for me, family. Keep that crown on your heart. And please remember this. We are God's echo. I love each and every one of you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to GNG Podcast. Remember, you are gifted differently to make a difference. Please visit chazjacksonspeaks.org and let's continue to grow together. God bless.